Hello, my name is Matthew, and yesterday I made a tag video. It was talking about problematic authors, and it was a list of questions um, generating the discussion of what do you do when an author's or an artist's personal life conflicts with your ability to enjoy the work that they make. It's an interesting set of questions, led to um, a lot of great discussion. But after I finished the video and was thinking about it last night and this morning, I just felt like I didn't really get to talk about the fun part, which is what do we do with the authors that are writing offensive, immoral, decadent, libertine books? What happens when the work itself is depraved and lascivious and lurid and all of those terrific things? And I started pulling books down to talk about, because one of my favorite pastimes is reading my dirty French novels. And so the first thing that might come to mind would be the kind of books that get banned from schools or libraries. So things like Huckleberry Finn, The Catcher in the Rye. I think John Green has some book that had a little bit of controversy. The Harry Potter series, when that was coming out, parents were upset with the fact that there was witchcraft in the books. And that's all basically just silliness. The next thing that we might think about is books that the authors have been charged legally with indecency. So this is much more serious. And I don't have it, but things like some of the works by William S. Burroughs, Naked Lunch, of course, Ulysses by James Joyce, and then this is such a pair, Madame Bovary by Flaubert, and then The Flowers of Evil by Baudelaire. And Flaubert had the charges dropped. Baudelaire did not have the charges dropped. So poor Baudelaire. And then there's also those really early, dirty, fun, ancient works that we can find. So I have the collected ancient Greek novels, and they are kind of decadent romances, and also the Satyricon by Petronius. But if we're going to be talking about dirty novels that can offend our sensibilities and make us go pale, I really feel like what we want to talk about are all of those great French writers, some of my favorites. And I'm just going to go through these quickly. There are two authors that I would like to highlight, and one maybe talk about more at length. And so these I'll go through fairly quickly. One of my favorite writers, Guy de Maupassant, has a fair share of his dirty stories. Apollinaire wrote pornographic novels. Guillaume Apollinaire, mostly known for his calligrams, his poetry. And this is The 11,000 Virgins. It's not very good at all. Actually, I highlighted Mademoiselle, the moment I laid eyes on you, I fell madly in love. I felt my genitals rise up in salute to your sovereign beauty, and my blood run as hot as if I had just drunk a glass of rum. Ridiculous. All of the great dirty little sayings, those the kind of sayings from La Rochefoucauld that would titillate a dinner party, mostly causing laughter and oh my's and things like that. Sayings like, just a random page, we forget our faults easily when they are known only to ourselves. How scandalous. This is a great Oxford classics. It's just French decadent tales, which is a good overview for some of these decadent French writers. Um, Relatively tame by today's standards, but Voltaire, all of his little tales that he wrote, just great fun. I wish I had a great big thick English translation. Um, he was so incredibly prolific, and there's um, scarcely few stories that I can get my hands on. A terrific, decadent, luscious, strange novel. One of my favorite French novels, Mademoiselle de Maupin by Théophile Gautier. Um, a lot of gender swapping and questions about sexuality, and really makes you think about a lot of different things. It's really good. Strange. And then, as far as French decadent literature, one of the names that would come up immediately is going to be J.K. Joris-Karl Huysmans. Um, he has a whole bunch of books. I have here The Damned, Parisian Sketches, and then the book that everyone is going to immediately associate with Huysmans, which is Against Nature. And look at that cover. How decadent. And also, this is the book that corrupted the mind of Dorian Gray. Lord Henry Wotton gives him a yellow-wrapped French book. It's unnamed in the novel. It comes out in the court transcripts that Oscar Wilde was thinking about, Against Nature. And it's decadent and terrific. It's mostly a curiosity. There's hardly any plot. There's hardly any characters. We just follow one misanthropic, wealthy man who basically in his retirement spends the course of the novel decorating his house and wanting everything to be at the height of excess. And there's a few really great chapters where he goes through his library, the ancient texts, and his modern literary land, and it's a catalog for all of the books that we're talking about. He wants all of the dirty, dark works that he can get his hands on, like Catullus and Schopenhauer. The two that we're going to highlight, as far as if we're going to talk about the books that can offend your senses, that are either shocking or immoral or incredibly negative, terrible books that are going to have just horror scenes throughout their pages. The first I want to show is Celine. And the two of his works that are his best and most well known is going to be Journey to the End of the Night. And essentially, these books pair together. They're almost, this is like a sequel. Death on the Installment Plan. This is my favorite. I think it's hilarious. But he has, I try to buy every single thing I can get my hands on with this guy. A whole bunch of other books. Gounod's Band, Castle to Castle, Rigadoon, Celine, Norman's Fable for Another Time. And the distinctive feature in all of these books, it's basically the same character. They're basically all autobiographical. Is the negativity, the sheer pessimism, the misanthropic worldview, combined with this violent, vitrolic writing style that's just explosive and energetic, inexhaustible, just pouring out the worst of humanity on every single page. It's grim and dark. And I also find extremely amusing. And then, if we're going to talk about shocking writers, and especially shocking French writers, there's really only one name. There's only one person to talk about. It's the name that eclipses and overshadows all of the authors and works that I talked about so far, and as far as I know, any other writer, thinker, man alive that has ever been recorded. And this is going to be, of course, the notorious Marquis de Sade. And again, I try to buy everything I can by this writer. I'll show a few of Incest, a short story collection, The Crimes of Love, The Misfortunes of Virtue, Philosophy in the Boudoir, and then the major works. Justine. This is a terrific edition. This is what Napoleon Bonaparte had to say about Justine by the Marquis de Sade. Justine is the most abominable book ever engendered by the most depraved imagination. To me, when I read that, I think, well, now I want to read the book. I think, a great cover. So there's Justine, and then the counterpart to Justine, which is probably his best work, which is Juliet. Let me see if there's anything on here. God. Well, and then the most notorious. The book that makes whatever the phrase is, pales in comparison. Everything else pales in comparison to the 120 Days of Sodom. This thing. And this is from, on the back cover, this is from de Sade's Last Will and Testament. Gives you an idea of this person's mind. Imperious, choleric, irascible, extreme in everything, with a dissolute imagination the like of which has never been seen, atheistic to the point of fanaticism, there you have me in a nutshell, and kill me again, or take me as I am, for I shall not change. And this was written while de Sade was imprisoned in a French dungeon, nearly insane, writing with energy and fanaticism this grotesque catalog of unspeakable acts and unnatural practices. There's sex and violence, rape, murder, torture. But plot is nearly non-existent. It's just a catalog of a series of days and a series of events and actions and behaviors that he lists. And any page, any sentence, you can open it up at random and it will make you go white. If the person that would be offended with the sorcery in the Harry Potter series would fall over just reading anything. I spent some time looking for some quotes that I could read, and it's basically impossible. It's unreadable. So these are some of the books. That Marquis de Sade is the landmark name that is worth focusing on. It makes all of the other books trivial. The thing is, de Sade is shocking. That's going to be the first and foremost feature uh, that you'll encounter when you read his work. Personally, I believe that he's a beautiful writer, an incredibly flawed novelist, but his lyrical style, that ornate, unctuous, incredibly confident way of moving the language. I can see how Flaubert and Proust, in very different ways, would be influenced by this author. And so there's this counterbalance or juxtaposition between the atrocities and horrors, these nightmarish depictions that go through the pages, and how beautifully they can be described. Flaubert apparently would read de Sade, Justine, or Juliet, or 120 Days of Sodom, and would roar with laughter as he read it. So I would be interested to know other kind of dirty, lascivious, lurid, these slimy, immoral, poisonous, toxic books. If you have any suggestions or recommendations for this fun subgenre, if you know anyone that is more scandalous and extreme than the Marquis de Sade, I would love to know as well. But to me, this is the fun part of that conversation. What's actually in the books, and why there can still be an enjoyment and entertainment, and that fluttering, titillating feeling when you're reading something that is so disagreeable, and how that feeling can challenge our own temperament and sense of morality. Just in a fun way. Leave a comment if you would like. Let me know if you've read any of these books, or like reading dirty French novels, anything like that. And that's what I'll say. So thank you for watching, and take care.